Hey, what's up guys? This is Prapreet and today I'm going to be talking about Sigma 28-45 1.8. And the beauty of this lens is that it's a zoom lens, but it's giving us that constant aperture of 1.8. That means that you'll be able to get better lighting in darker situations. You'll be getting more background blur. You'll be basically able to zoom in and out while containing the f1.8 aperture. For a lot of us photographers out there, this is a dream come true, and I feel like there's nothing that actually beats this. But as good as this lens sounds, there are some drawbacks and some limitations. So in this video today, I'll be covering all those topics, starting from the number one, the size, weight, and the built hardware quality of this product. So the range of this lens is from 28 to 45. A middle ground for that would be like a 35 mil. And when comparing the size of this lens to a 35, you can already kind of see how big it is. For example, this is 28 to 45 and this is just 35. Look at the size difference. It's almost the half of a difference. So when we're shooting video, for example, the 35 millimeter will work a lot better on a video, for example, on a gimbal stabilizer compared to the 28 to 45. So outside of the actual size, the big length of this massive lens, there is a hefty weight attached to it as well. It comes at about 2.1 pounds or about 950 grams. This would make it one of my heavier lenses. So because of the size of this lens, it's not able to sit upright in my backpack. And even though I have a really big Peter McKinnon backpack, by Nomadic, this is not able to sit upright. It would have to lay down horizontally. And that's kind of the drawback of this lens, just being so big and hefty, and definitely adds, 2.1 pounds to your bag. It doesn't seem like a lot, but adding on all of your other gear, just having this in your backpack can make it a bit challenging for travel. Definitely puts a load on your back while you're traveling through the airports. Even to gigs, it may just be a little bit heftier, and especially while you're, I've even taken it on a hike, and it wasn't a good idea. So, you want to basically reduce the weight as much as possible, and sometimes I feel like this lens just does not do it. So after the size and the weight, I want to talk about the built quality of this lens. It feels sturdy. It feels good. It feels very metallic. It doesn't seem like there's any cheap roundabouts in this lens. It seems very well built. In hindsight, I believe that this lens could basically do everything as long as you have a controlled vision of what's happening around you. Basically, that means that it's just imagine a 35 millimeter, prime lens. You're not able to zoom in or out. And the only way you can get proper composition at times is if you can walk up to your subject, walk back from your subject, get it wide, get it close up. And the better thing about this is you can kind of go from 28 to 45. 45 will give you more of a close-up than 35 would. So basically it helps you tiny little bit, but I still feel like it's limited. It's not as wide as a 24 or 20 millimeter, and then it's not as narrow or zoomed in as a 50 or 85. So that you definitely need to walk a little bit to get the right compositions. And I would consider this calling a beefed up 35 millimeter. Just helps you a little bit, but again, it comes with the cost of the weight. It comes at the cost of carrying a bigger lens as well. So you do get those benefits of using this lens, but at the same time, you are paying the price of carrying a heavier weight. So the times where it shines, I would say definitely portrait session. If you want to take portraits of, I'm a wedding photographer, for example. So anytime I'm taking portraits of the couple, I've done, the first time I used this lens, it was, I think we were on a time crunch, basically 15 to 20 minutes where the venue was closing, and we had to move around, get some nice portrait shots of the couple. And I was able to go around, take some, very action and fast portrait shots of them. And this gave me no problem at all, because the way I was able to compose my shots, especially the wider shots, I feel like they just came out perfectly. I wasn't able to get any, super close-up shots unless I walked up close to the couple. But at the same time, I am able to somehow get those shots really fast, move around, and get some really nice shots. I feel like that's why, like, it's really good for those portrait shots, and it really shines for those medium shots. It's not made for close-ups, and it's not definitely made for super wide shots either, like a 16-35 would give you. So there are times when this lens is clearly not enough. One of those times is when you're shooting some sort of group shots, some sort of traditional ceremonies happening where you would traditionally use a 24-70 f2.8. This does not do justice in replacement of that 24-70. 24 is a lot wider than 28, and 70 millimeters just gives you so much of a closer depth that you're able to do more things, especially if you have a video person right next to you and you're not trying to walk into their shot. You can just zoom into a 70 millimeters. But having a 28-45 just limits your composition at times. You're not able to get a close-up because there's a video guy next to you and you cannot walk in front of them. And as I said before, in portraits, this is perfect because while taking portraits, you're probably going to be the only one that's actually taking the shot. You're going to be taking turns. So you're able to get as close as possible to, your subject to get a close-up, or you're able to step back, take a wider shot. That's totally in your hands. But during a traditional ceremony, you need something that can go closer and zoom out a bit. So I feel like 24-70 is definitely not replaceable with this lens. So if you're thinking that, hey, this can just take over my 24-70, that is completely not true. You definitely need that 24-70 in your kit, maybe even 85 to get those close-ups. And once everything kicks off, there's dancing and there's all these other like action things happening and it's crowded. 28 millimeters is definitely going to be a bit too zoomed in for you to get those tighter shots. So, having a 16-35, for example, you can actually go into the crowd, get those action shots of people dancing in like super wide range. So the image quality, I feel like that is another backlash of this lens. I feel like this lens definitely has some chromatic aberrations when it comes to, some of those focal points here and there. If you're trying to get a full range sharp shot, I would definitely recommend a Sony lens. But again, there are times when this will shine. Quick portrait sessions, this does hold the upper hand when you're trying to get those action shots at 1.8. It's not bad by any means, but if you really zoom in, for example, with a Sony a7R5 or something that has a lot of megapixels where you can zoom in and kind of see the details, I feel like you can kind of tell the difference between, this lens versus a Sony native lens. So to conclude this video, I just want to quickly talk about who is this lens built for, right? It's not built for everybody, and I feel like it's not built for every occasion. So if you're just starting off photography, I would definitely not recommend this lens because there's other things that you can buy. You can buy a 50 mil, you can buy 85, you can buy 24, right? And if you think that this is going to replace everything, and if you just do portraits, okay, yeah, you can get this lens, you can make it work. One lens does it all kind of thing. It'll help you in your progress. But if you still want those details, like if you like the 85 millimeter look, it's just not doable with this 45 millimeter maximum zoom. But at the same time, there's perks of this lens. So if you are a professional photographer and you're traveling and you're okay with carrying 2.1 pounds of a lens in your kit, then I would strongly suggest this, because at times when you don't have a lot of time to be changing lenses, to be shooting with multiple cameras, to take some nice portraits of the couple, for example, or even singular portraits, I feel like this lens can definitely, kind of shine in that areas. But at the same time, I wouldn't say this is your go-to lens at all times. You are going to have to switch out to a 24-70 at points. You are going to switch out to a 16-35 for more candid shots. In my 2 months of owning this lens, I would say that this is not the lens that I would use during a typical ceremony. And the reason why I learned that the hard way is because I'm not able to compose my shots as I would like them to be. So a lot of times I see that, my shots are just limited at 45, where I could have gone a little bit closer. I could have gotten a bit closer to my subject, gotten a more tight, a better composed shot. So it's not the perfect lens. by any means. It does have those things that I would want you to consider before buying. And the biggest one is the size and how it's limited. It's not like a 24 to 70 1.8. So who is this lens for? It's for the people who are taking medium length shots, and anybody who can kind of plan ahead to know that, okay, this would be an ideal length for me. You know, I'll only be taking medium sized shots, and you won't be needing anything else. Then yes, but it's a nice addition to your kit if you're a professional photographer and you've already got a bunch of lenses. You know, for example, 35 to 150 from Tamron is a great example of, you know, versatility to the next level, where you're able to use that one lens in the whole wedding. But this is definitely not something that you can use throughout one wedding. You know, this is not a lens that will do everything for your wedding day photo shoots. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on, you know, like, do you own this lens? Have you tried it? How did you find it? How did you use it through your day? Where did it help you the most? And what did you feel that this lens wasn't really working on? And if you have any other questions, please make sure to comment them down below. So this is it from my end today, and I hope you guys got a bit of information about who this lens is for and why it's going to be useful, or vice versa. But this is it from me. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.